Well, we're looking at Acts chapter 9 this morning, and there's an awesome story about one of the disciples named Philip. Philip was a man full of God, full of the Holy Spirit, and he went off to Samaria when the church scattered, and he started to preach the gospel. And God gives him a unique opportunity to share the gospel with an Ethiopian guy who was a high-up official, who was someone who was a big dog. He knew a lot of people, and he gave Philip the opportunity to share Christ. And it's an interesting what happens. Philip walks up to this guy's chariot, and he's reading the Bible, and Philip simply asks him, "Do you understand what you're reading?" And this is what he says. This is chapter 9, verses 31. This is what the eunuch says. Philip says, "Do you understand what you're reading?" "How can I," he said, "unless someone explains it to me?" So he invited Philip to come up and sit with him. And so it's as simple as that. That's what happened. The eunuch is sitting there and he says, "I don't understand. How can I understand what I'm reading unless someone that knows what they're talking about explains it to me?" And guys, that is the same thing in today. I mean, it's the same way today. So many people are starving for truth. I mean, this guy was reading Isaiah, the book of Isaiah, and he had no clue what it was, but he wanted truth, and he knew somewhere, something, that this has got to be true, but I don't understand it. Guys, there's so many people out there. Your friends, the people around you, the people in your workplace, they don't know Christ, but they're starving for truth. But how can they understand it if no one explains it to them? And that's where God calls us. We're called to explain it. We're called to share Christ. And it's not always going to be that easy where people just ask us about it. Sometimes we're going to have to live Christ with our actions in front of people and then explain why you're different. What's different about you? But how can people understand it if no one explains it? You know, as Philip explains it, this guy accepts Christ, and the very next thing he does is he stops the chariot and he gets baptized in the river. And Philip actually, when the guy comes back out of the water, it says that Philip disappears and God takes him to a new spot. I mean, that would be crazy. But it says that the guy went on rejoicing happily. His life was changed. Guys, that's what we want to see. We want to see lives that are going to be changed because God did something fresh and new in them. Don't ever be afraid to explain God to somebody.